What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 10-game slate in the association, a big Wednesday slate, the last day in January. Mike, how are you feeling about tonight's slate?
Yeah, doing good. January treated us a little better than the previous Januaries and the prop scene, so that's good. But yeah, this is going to be madness, man. I was writing matchups, and some games just I don't even care. There's just so many Q tags and players out that the matchups don't even matter. So it's going to be a chaotic day. But yeah, let's get to it.
All right, let's go game by game. Let's start with Chicago and Charlotte. Chicago on the second night of back-to-back here. Disappointing home loss last night. They play in Charlotte tonight. They're without Zach LaVine, Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, and Torrey Craig is also doubtful. So very thin in terms of the forward spot. What are your expectations for how Chicago tries to get by tonight against Charlotte?
Yeah, tight like a tiger. They're going to be Dan Terry's going to probably be out for a little bit, but Torrey Craig getting a little bit closer, so the timing really couldn't be better because Terry had a terrible ankle sprain last night, couldn't put weight on it, and he was helped off the court. So they've been playing Julian Phillips a pretty good bit off the bench. He's got a pretty secure role. I'd expect Javon Carr to pick up a larger role. We saw for the third straight game that they did go to the Andre Drummond duo with Nikola Vucevic. Obviously, this matchup against Charlotte Centers is the nuts. So both those guys, you may lose a little bit of rebound rate with Vooch, but the offensive upside could be better there. And then I'd assume we talked about this yesterday, man. He could be playing a ton, and he got the Tibbs diet there with 39, been playing great. He's got a little double-digit scoring streak on his hands. Matchup should be awesome. Expect Cody to guard either DeMar or Kobe White, and then the other one, getting Brandon Miller. So it should be a pretty soft matchup for Ayo and expect him to play a ton. And again, just the Kobe White DeMar minutes are so much. They're the top two players in minutes per game. They get them night after night, and they've been pretty healthy. So yeah, expect this to be one of the tightest rotations of the night, one of the worst defenses. So fantasy goodness abound.
All right, Charlotte side of things, LaMelo Ball listed doubtful here. Miles Bridges on the injury report with a probable tag. They're still without Gordon Hayward and Mark Williams, and of course Kyle Lowry, who they have no intention of playing before the trade deadline. What are your notes here on the Hornets tonight?
Yeah, different listing for Lamelo with the tendinopathy. So it sounds like he's going to miss more time here. Not great. This is the same ankle that he's hurt multiple times this season. This isn't the same one that he had surgery on, but obviously this is really a bad sign, expecting him to miss time. And then we saw a big starting lineup. We saw Cody Martin pick up the first unit point guard spot, not only by name, but by role. Led the team in touch times. Potential assists were pretty good. Did run a little bit hot. I think he had 11, but yeah, I think he's got this role locked up. I don't think it was matchup related. I think they're going to want to stick with it. And it was a pretty good indication to me that they were preparing for LaMelo to miss more time. So obviously, just look at these minutes: 39 for Bridges, probable tag for an elbow contusion. So should be okay for a contusion, but always keep an eye on the Charlotte probable tags. PJ played a bunch. His minutes are really solid. Excellent matchup. Shoots a ton of catch and shoot stuff. Brandon Miller avoided fouls, gets close to 40 minutes. Leads the team in catch and shoot, so he's in a really good matchup there. So yeah, the Bulls are really good on ball handlers, but this team doesn't really have a lot of ball handlers. I expect Caruso to pick up the Miles Bridges assignment, so it could kind of funnel more stuff to those other guys I mentioned. And then these other guys are kind of picking up scraps, but they're not really too fantasy relevant. But we could see pretty elevated minutes in a non-back-to-back game with a pretty decent spread. I think it's 5 with the Bulls traveling for this game and being shorthanded after a tough loss in Toronto for the Bulls last night.
Yeah, and you mentioned the minute ceiling here. Bridges, Miller. I would note this game was a 20-point game throughout the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They lose this game by 21, and we're still getting 39s. That's indicative of Steve Clifford just doesn't want to see the other guys on the court. Like the other guys are not. They're borderline NBA talent players. Steve Clifford's had a ton of losing to deal with in Charlotte this season, and he's probably just tired of seeing bad basketball. And so you might just continue to see really, really tight minutes on the high end, even regardless of situation for Charlotte.
Yeah, to add to that, there was a comment from Clifford when Cody Martin first came back. He called him a, quote, reliable rotation player, saying how few they had. So yeah, that's reflected in the minutes. And I ticked him up a little bit from where we were. I think he could actually play a pretty good bit here if he can avoid foul trouble.
Let's move to Detroit and Cleveland. On the Detroit side of things, Cade Cunningham listed as probable with left knee injury management. Isaiah Stewart out here with the left ankle sprain. Hopefully we don't get any shenanigans on Cade once again. The probable tag struck on Sunday when he was listed as probable, announced in the starting lineup, and then late scratched after the game had locked from a DFS standpoint. What are your expectations for Cade tonight, and how do they handle things without Isaiah Stewart?
Yeah, so let's start with the Cade stuff because the role was insane. He had a minutes limit on him in the game. This is the screen game behind him, the screen. He didn't play, but he played 35 minutes. It had like the nuttiest of roles. So pulling those stats up, yeah, 35 minutes goes for 20 and 12 assists, 27 drives, 18 potential assists, 8.2 minutes of touch time with a minutes limit. It doesn't get really much better than that. So expecting Cade to be good to go. Again, they kind of held him out. Monty said they were like, okay, let's just be careful. Back-to-back game. They shouldn't have freaking listed him probably to begin with. Like that was the mistake. So, but yeah, I expect a pretty big role. Matchup is terrible. Maybe that gets a little bit softer with the Cavs taking away some of their first unit guys. And then the other thing is it Mike Muscala season? We've got some intel. Ryan Schwetfinger doing my job for me, doing the starters jersey watch, and it looked like Mike Muscala was in his starters jersey. Couldn't find anybody else wearing a blue jersey besides the other guys. So and it makes sense. You know, we always talk about teams using more size against the Cavs, who are going to probably have Jared Allen and Mobley. Maybe not. We'll talk about that in a second. So expecting a starting lineup of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Boya Bogdanovic, Mike Muscala, and Jalen Duren. Been playing great. Matchup sucks, especially if Jared Allen can go. And then we'll see what they do with Kevin Knox's rotation has been so weird. We saw that game on Saturday was out of the rotation in the first half, and then they made him like a Mariano Rivera like closer, picking up some fourth quarter minutes. It kind of cut out Killian Hayes in the second half. Besides like a quick blow for Cade in the fourth. And then also should note Marcus Sasser was out of the rotation 2 games ago, and then as you see on the screen here, 19 minutes, including closing over here. So does Marcus Sasser leapfrog Killian Hayes? Is Mike Muscala starter's jersey watch legit? How many minutes does Asar Thompson play? Is Cade Cunningham, if the game's close, play like 38 like he was playing in closer games? There's like a whole lot of questions here. How many minutes does Alec Burks play? These are the questions we're going to have every night with Monty Williams. It's a completely tough situation. But yeah, we are on Mike Muscala starter's jersey watch. He wouldn't really be too viable because they are going to want to play Kevin Knox and those guys. But interesting to see how this shakes out.
On the Cleveland side, you mentioned Jared Allen is questionable due to illness here. Darius Garland also questionable in the return from his jaw fracture. Evan Mobley not listed on the injury report, which is a really good sign after he returned with a minutes limitation on Monday. What are your notes here on the Cavs?
Yeah, Garland returning from the jaw injury, that's not something that usually A is aggravated, and unless you're a boxer, or B, something that requires a ramp up. So he's been kind of going through stuff. He might be pretty full. I'm a little bit more worried about the garbage time limitation than the actual limitation from a conditioning standpoint. We've seen him come off like severe-ish injuries, like knees and muscle strains, and been pretty full. So there's a chance he plays a bunch. Would expect him to start. So expecting, and obviously feel pretty good about the 4, and should feel pretty good about the 5th. So Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, if he could go, get to that in a second. And Max Strus should be starting. I would not be totally shocked if they start Okoro because he's had such a big impact. Got a lot of talk in the last few games that may have been like, hey, thank you for your service in the first unit. We're demoting you. Let me talk you up a little bit before we boot you. But Okoro's been awesome, man. Cavs have the number 1 pick and roll ball handler defense per possession in the NBA. So I wouldn't be like totally shocked when that happens. But again, bottom line, I expect him to start. And so Jared Allen, if he's out, I think pretty clearly they're going to start Dean Wade. Dean Wade's been really effective from on-ball defensive standpoint. I think he's just earned it. We've seen it last year when Jared Allen was missing time, they would plug him in. Obviously, we saw him plugged in when they're missing Mobley. So pretty confident if Jared Allen did miss, it would be Dean Wade starting. I don't think they would go to like a smaller-ish lineup. But they might play Okoro at the 4. I wouldn't be surprised by that either. But Wade would be the favorite to me if they did miss Allen.
Yeah, and the one concern I'd have on Garland is just that injury is tough to maintain weight, and so I would wonder about conditioning because you have to eat through like a straw for a period of time, and so that's the one note that I'd be worried about Garland. We'll see if there's any limitations. Usually the Cavs do give some semblance of an idea if there are limitations. They don't always follow them, but they at least give an idea.
Lost you, Dink. At least I think I did. Oh, we lost him. Yeah, so like he was saying, so we could actually, I think that mostly covers it. If he wants to pop back in and let us know. Assume you guys can hear me. I hope so. So the Clippers are actually up next, and they play the Cavs. And there's actually a really funny transition from what Dink was talking about. And yep, okay, so it was Dink. Do you have anything you want to close there, Dink?
No, I was just tossing it to the Clippers side where Paul George was questionable tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is a great transition from what you were talking about before we lost you there. So after the game, Ty Lue was asked about Paul George's minutes limit, and he said, "No, I'm not telling you." Like quote. And so later on, someone asked about Evan Mobley's minutes restriction, and Ty Lue was like, "Oh, hey, did Bickerstaff actually tell you what the minutes limit was?" And the beat was like, "Oh yeah, he did." And Lue was like, "Wow, that's like." He was like, has mind blown that a coach would actually share a minutes limit. He refuses to share Paul George's minutes limit. And Paul George, Sam and I, shout out to Sam for the debut yesterday on the Establish the Show. We were hiking this morning, and our new game now is who's the late scratch today. We did this before the report, and Ben Simmons was my number one pick for late scratch today, and Paul George was number two. So they both got downgraded. So I don't even get the bonus points. But anyways, minutes limits on. I would expect to continue the All-Star break. Again, Lou's not going to tell us, but it seems like it's like a 30. It might be a little bit less given the matchups, or maybe if things are kind of going a certain way. But bottom line is Paul George is going to have a minutes limit on him, in my opinion, until the All-Star break, based on how Lou just won't share anything. And then we talked about in this game, maybe a lot of teams go big against the Cavs. We talked about Mike Muscala a second. They went small. That's totally a Ty Lue thing, man. Like everybody, the conventional wisdom is out the window with this guy, but their matchup's obviously fantastic against the Wizards, so it could really funnel a lot of usage to James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. Could be a pretty big night. Kawhi Leonard's hot again, after a little bit of a lull. He's shooting the lights out again.
Washington side of things, they're without Isaiah Livers and Landry Shamet. What are your notes on the Wizards?
Yeah, Shamit's a bit of an interesting piece here, but should note the new coaching staff, Brian Keith's been pretty good. They've won 2 good games. Their defense has been very good by Wizards, even by like any team standards. It's been significantly better. It's a little bit of softer matchups in Detroit and San Antonio. But the headline to me is Kyle Kuzma. Last 2 games, he's had a 33 usage rate. The minutes have been a little bit higher. They've been ticking up a little bit more. We've seen Jordan Poole like rarely hit 30. His minutes have been more consistent. Tyus Jones' minutes are more consistent. Daniel Gafford's minutes are more consistent. So Wes Unseld was more in the Will Hardy school of we're playing 10. Our starters aren't getting to 32, 33 very often. Maybe Coach Keith's a little bit more open to that. So we got a little bit of an uptick on the minutes there, but again, just massive spread here. So we kind of like undid the uptick because the spread's so big. Denny Obvious minutes are a little bit down, a little bit matchup, foul situation, hot shooting bench related. But interesting to see. But again, huge spread here. Clippers offense is ridiculous. Number 1 offense in 2024. Coming off a loss, could be pretty ugly for the Wizards.
Let's go to Kings and Heat. On the Kings side, Sasha Vezenkov is the only questionable tag here. Right ankle sprain. What are your notes on the Kings?
Yeah, so he's on that 7 to 14 day reval. Pretty little, like one more day would hit the 7. So he's been listed as questionable. Went through shoot around, didn't play him, got ruled out. So maybe he's back today. I don't think it matters much. Really, the headline here, and this has been a pretty big story over the last like 10 days, is the starters' minutes, not just Sabonis and Fox and Murray to a lesser degree. But Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, night after night, are getting really big minutes, and it's had an adverse effect on Malik Monk. Malik Monk's minutes are way down. The 6th man of the year tickets are looking worse and worse by the day. But Mike Brown spent a lot of time talking about Kevin Huerter getting out of his slump, being a guy they want to score on second side, even run him in some dribble handoff stuff with Sabonis. And it's been kind of a really good spot. Awesome matchup against the Heat, who've really been shifting a big 3-point funnel again here. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the starters. And yeah, we've ticked Malik Monk's minutes down just because, he's not hitting upper 20s like ever anymore, and he's rarely hitting mid 20s. So, but yeah, and we'll talk about the Heat in a second, but the rotation's kind of getting pretty tight here.
Yeah, on the Heat side of things, the offense has really struggled. So Kings coming to town has got to be a welcome sign. They're without Duncan Robinson. He's in concussion protocol. They're also without Orlando Robinson, G League assignment, and Drew Smith, who's out for the season. What are your notes here on the Heat and how they attempt to replace Duncan?
Yeah, they're just a disaster right now. I think this is the biggest losing streak Spo has had, something like that. It's terrible. But yeah, their offense, 28th in offense in 2024, third, 23rd half court. The Rozier lineup's actually been pretty good. So the Rozier starting lineup that they've been running, it's only 38 minutes, but 118 offensive rating. Yeah, that's pretty good. Their defense has actually been pretty bad. That's been the issue, and that's been kind of setting the tone. Like they're just playing in the half court a little too much. There's been some commentary from the beats that they're going to try to feature Terry Rozier more. How does that affect Tyler Hero? Does it affect Jimmy Butler? We've seen Bam's minutes and role shrink a little bit here. So it's tough to parse through. They had a film session yesterday, so Terry Rozier still hasn't had a practice yet, just the film stuff. So I'm expecting pretty much the same situation. You're more or less taking Josh Richardson and installing him into Duncan Robinson's minutes. We saw Richardson was out of the rotation, and they kind of plugged him in for Duncan. And then how many minutes does Jaime Hawkins play? We saw him return 24, 25. You don't need too much wing defense. If he's if he's no limit, he might hit 30. They might run it real tight. We've seen Spo run 8. We still got a pretty firm 9-man with, Jay Rich, Caleb Martin, I mentioned Jaime, and then Kevin Love playing the non-BAMs. But they need to win, man. To lose this many games when we've seen them somehow when they're really shorthanded, no Jimmy, even no Bam, they wouldn't lose this much. Like Spo somehow finds wins, and for them to be the healthiest they've been all year and losing these games by big digits, it's tough scene. But expecting more or less the same. Besides Josh Richardson entering for Duncan's minutes.
Let's move to Dallas and Minnesota. On the Dallas side of things, there will be without Luka Doncic, without Kyrie Irving, without Dante Exum. Most likely he and Derrick Jones Jr. are listed doubtful, and then Derek Lively also listed out. That is practically a starting lineup worth of players that are out. So what are your expectations for what Dallas looks like going into Minnesota with a tough assignment tonight?
Yeah, this is bad. So they're not fake. So when you see, as you mentioned, Dante Exum's supposed to start according to Kid. He's been hurt. New injury for him. Had the foot thing. Now he's got the knee thing. Obviously, he's had knee injury history. So these aren't fake injuries. Like usually you would see this injury report against a team that's very good, and you're like, oh boy, red alert, red alert. Bet the Tim Hardaway alts, yada yada yada. So I don't know. I'm kind of taking it at face value, but we also have them on starters jersey watch here. And it looks like Markieff Morris was wearing a starters jersey. Dwight Powell's going to have some shades on for goggles after an eye injury from about a week ago. So, yeah, but starting lineup, expecting Hardy to start at the point with pretty good minutes. I think we got him at 35 with even a little bit of blowout baked in. Tim Hardaway Jr., substitute teacher, filling in for public speaker Kyrie. Should still have Josh Green in there. Definitely expecting Grant Williams to start. And as we mentioned, we're leaning Markieff Morris to fill in with Maxi Kleba, who hurt his toe. And I think that's probably why. We've seen him have 3 separate incidents, 2 of which required multiple game absences. One was kind of like a day-to-day thing, but they don't want to play this dude a lot of minutes. So I think that's kind of why they're keeping him on the bench there. But hey, you're playing against Gobert and Cat. Clearly you should start Grant Williams and Markieff Morris. So I don't know, but that spread's huge. The Wolves have laid some eggs here, but definitely expecting a pretty big blowout. Derek Lively just got popped in the face late, so the broken nose. You may your favorite tag. You may be getting some Derek Lively, Cody Zeller, Bradley Beal nose available tags. Your favorite?
Yeah, I always look forward to those. Minnesota, especially when they linger for months at a time. Minnesota, Mike Conley listed questionable tonight, left hamstring soreness. This seems like a spot to get him another day, given the depleted opponent. What are your instincts on Mike Conley's availability tonight?
Yeah, we talked about this. We were, besides the Wolves broadcast and people who were plugged in on watching Wolves broadcast, which I like, no one on Twitter had the hamstring note besides them, and we were on that. So, anyways, don't really have much to add. It's Mike Conley. He's old, so maybe he sits again. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, obviously going to start. He's been playing really well. It's pretty straightforward there. So, yeah, I don't really have too much analysis on him.
All right, let's move to the premier game tonight, Denver and Oklahoma City. On the Denver side, Nikola Jokic is questionable with low back pain. Got a little bit beat up in that Milwaukee game. What are your thoughts on the Jokic Q tag tonight?
Yeah, not a back-to-back, but legit injury. We've seen him tagged with back injuries before. That probable tag that got the questionable tag that got switched to a probable tag when they had the flight issue. So seems like a thing that's been lingering, but I mean he's playing a ton. I would expect him to play through this, not a back to back. So yeah, I expect him to start. If not, and then it's like it's too unclear because the injury report on the other side, it's just got too much going on. But I think if SGA starts, I wouldn't be totally shocked if they start Zeke Naji just to have a little bit more of a switchy scheme. But they probably would think it's going to be DeAndre Jordan, excuse me. But yeah. So, but I expect Jokic to play, and then if not, like more usage to Jamal Murray, whose matchup could get a little bit softer. But again, there's so much on the OKC side that it's even tough to talk through matchups.
Yeah, and I would expect maybe a different opponent. Maybe Jokic is more likely to sit, but I think with the top seed in the Western Conference kind of congesting around 4 teams right now, I think anytime these teams play each other, it's going to be an opportunity for guys to try to gut through stuff. On the Oklahoma City side, questionable tags galore as well. Lou Dort, left ankle soreness. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, illness. Chet Holmgren, left ankle sprain. And they're without J-Dub, Jalen Williams, right ankle sprain. So this could be a very depleted version of the Thunder. Maybe that would influence Jokic's availability tonight. But what are you expecting for the questionable tags on the Thunder, and how do they replace Jalen Williams tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to start with J-Dubs just because it's a little cleaner. So I think there's 2 candidates to start, and quite clearly, I think that most instances, Brighton Penn, Case and Wallace, we've seen him fill in. He benefited last time, yada, yada, yada. But we know Mark Daigneault likes to play bigger against the bigger ball-handly bigs. We saw it against Embiid when they went to J. Will. I think they might start J. Will if Jokic is in. I think that makes a lot of sense just to kind of get him out there. There's a lot of actually reports. I shouldn't say reports, but puff pieces around J. Will. So, and there's actually some commentary about his rim protection. Mark Daigneault talked about him at length, being as more of a guy who was taking charges last year to trying to make some more blocks and be more aggressive on weak side help and all that stuff, which was interesting. So I kind of like lean that way, but the chalk answer would be Case and Wallace starting. And then, I mean, yeah, like SGA, Kaysen would probably start at point. The Isaiah Joe thing's another thing. Josh Giddey would be, skyrocketing with ball handling. Lou Dort, if they don't play him, they would go to Aaron Wiggins. That's kind of their go-to move there, especially without J-Dub. And then Kaysen would have to account for him. So, Kaysen probably next in line. Like if you had to bet, like what are the odds that Kaysen Wallace is starting today? Just because he has so many passes, it's probably like minus 300. Just because he could start for Shea, he could start for Dort, he could start for J-Dub already, he could start for Chet. Who knows? So feel pretty good that Kaysen Wallace somehow, some way is going to start. Dort's injury is pretty legit, so could see him missing. Mentioned Wiggins, and then they've got bodies. They'll find minutes for whoever. Misic, Kenrich Williams would play a pretty good bit. He would be a candidate to start if it's like empty streets where they would start him and J. Will. But yeah, this is just all these high end players being questionable or out is pretty tough to parse through.
Yeah, I just like the idea that Oklahoma City could be like, Jalen Williams is out tonight. Jalen Williams is starting.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the New Orleans and Houston game. New Orleans has Herb Jones listed questionable here, and of course the Cody Zeller available face mask tag. What are your expectations for Herb tonight? I will note that my instincts on the Trey Murphy versus Jordan Hawkins, I got a little bit of a resolution last game. Trey remains ahead. I feel confident in seeing the resolution last game that Trey Murphy remains ahead of Jordan Hawkins. What are your notes here with Herb Jones' status in doubt?
Yeah, new injury for him. We'll see. It's only listed as soreness, so he's got a decent chance to return there. Yeah, that's if he's out, I would assume they go to Trey Murphy. They usually are pretty comfortable with him. Wouldn't be totally shocked if they start Dyson Daniels to put a little pressure on Fred VanVleet. If Herb's starting, he would guard Fred VanVleet there. And that's pretty much it. You mentioned that the Trey Murphy kind of came back to life, even closed. They closed small with Trey Murphy against as they were, they lost it. They were trying to make a comeback with Trey Murphy with the other starters, non-center. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So pretty clean. So if he's out, that would actually help, I think, Fred VanVleet the most, and then Trey Murphy the second most. Would also elevate Jordan Hawkins to a little bit of a bigger role. Dyson Daniels, as I mentioned, his defensive impact would be, kind of elevated here. So those 3 guys would benefit the most. I should mention Valanciunas, kind of held together. We thought that bottom could drop out, but he kind of was okay.
On the Houston side of things, they're still without Tari Eason, but no other players listed on the injury report tonight. So any other notes you have on the Rockets?
No, just a really good win from them. One of their best offensive games of the year. And they did it with their main guys. This was a really tight rotation up until pretty much garbage time. We've got a 40 on Şengün, 41 on Jalen Green, who was hot. Jalen Green playing some of his best ball of his career. His rim scoring's up a little bit. His on-ball stuff is up a little bit from an efficiency standpoint. He's playing really, really well, and we've got his minutes really safe. So that means he's probably cratering today. Should also note Jabari Smith, unlimited. You know, he got full minutes. He's going to have to guard Zion. Zion got him pretty good in their matchup earlier this year. Jabari had a really impressive preseason game against Zion. Yes, I am citing preseason matchups. That's what we do here. But then, yeah, you know, Şengün could really kick ass. They've been the Pelicans' interior defense has really fallen off. We saw when they were running hot defensively, they had that fixed, but it's fallen off. So this could be. I considered coverboarding Şengün, but I've coverboarded him like 2 times in the last 3 weeks. Went another route, but I think Şengün could have a really big role. Talk of funneling more offense through him. Especially if Herb could play. You know, if Herb limits Fred VanVleet, could be a path of least resistance situation for Alfred Şengün.
Orlando and San Antonio as the Magic continue their trip through Texas. No Gary Harris tonight. They will get Markelle Fultz back. He's not listed on the injury report. What are your notes here on the Magic?
Yeah, just Powell losing a little bit of handling, but the usage has been strong. He's kind of like been Brandon Ingramy with a lot of jump shooting. We saw Jonathan Isaac start and like, what the hell was that even about? But it sounds like he's going to be okay. Got a really vague answer from Jamal Mosley there. And should also note the starting lineup that they're going to have today, assuming no late scratches, big theme this time of year, of Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paolo, and Wendell Carter Jr. They are number 1 in defense among the about 60 lineups with 100 minutes. So they've been playing really strong defense. They limit threes. They are not helping off. We saw this a lot in the Memphis game when Jaren Jackson was just filling the paint. We were looking for an assist. They just weren't helping off. That's the way they play defense. So, you know, as good as their defense is, we'll talk about San Antonio in a second. But, yeah, I feel good about the starters. Cole Anthony's minutes will come down. We'll see what happens to Anthony Black now that they're going to have Markelle. He was kind of hanging on by a thread, but had a really strong game in a loss. It was a homecoming game for him, Texas boy. But it's great to see where his minutes could kind of cut into.
On the San Antonio side, Zach Collins listed questionable, which of course always comes with a Dominic Barlow questionable tag as well. In addition, Keldon Johnson listed questionable with a left elbow laceration here. What are your notes on the Spurs?
Yeah, should be good on Keldon. We'll see. Left elbow, you know, it doesn't sound like that's going to bother him too much, but you never know. Maybe the Spurs decide to sit him out and get looks at other guys. Yeah, the Zach Collins thing is straightforward. You know, whenever Zach Collins gets pulled out, we just put his minutes right on we call him Domino Barlow now, just because, you know, the domino effect from Zach Collins not playing. But yeah, Wemby's minutes, man, hitting 30s now. As I mentioned, they're not going to double him a lot. You know, running into Wendell Carter and some good on-ball defenders makes it seem tough. But he's gonna be able to shoot over the top in those little Jokic out, which we'll get to. And then the OKC is good. They got it. Their guys in, so we'll come back to that. But yeah, I actually almost covered Boyd Wemby today. Couldn't quite pull the trigger on it, but I do like this matchup a lot for Wemby.
Do you want to hit on the Jokic stuff again, or do you want
to? Yeah, I mean, we kind of covered it. We could cover it again real quick. You want to take the lead this time? I don't want to influence you.
You were mentioning that you thought Zignaji could end up drawing a start here because of the switch heavier scheme with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is in. I think that would potentially make a lot of sense. I think you'll also see a good bit of Aaron Gordon potentially at the center spot that you could see as well, and maybe Peyton Watson even starting. Like they could end up.
That's what I was thinking too.
So there's a lot of different routes here, but the thing to know without Jokic obviously is big increase in offensive opportunity and role for Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. Those are the guys who can handle most of that load. And then you'll also probably see more Reggie Jackson on the floor tonight because they need more scoring and more ball creation, especially when anytime Jamal Murray is off the floor, the ball's going to be in Reggie Jackson's hands a lot tonight. Because in the past, when Jamal Murray is off the floor, the ball is in the hands of Nikola Jokic. So just be prepared to see the guys who can absorb usage likely do so for the Nuggets tonight.
Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, I know you're big on this. Jokic taking him off the court. Not great for Michael Porter Jr. because he really kind of benefits from Jokic being such a guy who could suck in the help, which matchup would have been great. I was really excited, but I kind of wrote him up in matchup saying a guy who could benefit OKC second most catches, shoot points allowed. So it was when they could use the size. So I thought MPJ was in a good spot. Now it's a little murky, but yeah, I think for sure they're gonna whether they start him. I don't know, but they might just start DeAndre. I think, like you said, I think Peyton Watson just has to play. Like he's clearly their sixth best player. So I think that just if you got to play smaller, you could certainly do that against OKC. Even with Chet, Chet doesn't really like play big. So I was like, that's like too spicy. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just start Peyton Watson because he's played so well for them. But yeah, I think that we should expect DeAndre, but don't be surprised if it's Zeke Naji or Peyton Watson in a small lineup. We know they're pretty comfortable playing Gordon at the 5, and you could put Gordon, especially without J-Dub, you could put Gordon on Chet and kind of fill out your, put Peyton as like your wing defender for Giddey, and then, KCP obviously with guard. So that makes sense, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of start Peyton Watson and just put their best guys out there.
All right, let's move to Phoenix and Brooklyn. Kevin Durant's return to Brooklyn tonight for the Suns. They've got questionable tags on Grayson Allen and Bull. Bradley Beal listed available here with that nasal fracture. What are your notes on the Suns?
Yeah, Bradley Beal had the Batman mask. Beal tweeted out a bat emoji with a picture of himself. They are fully embracing it. Yeah, apparently a Dark Knight guy. But yeah, Grayson Allen rolled his ankle pretty good. Decent chance he misses. I think they would start Eric Gordon and kind of just like weather the storm for the rest of this road trip, play their guys as much as they can, and then I just hope Grayson Allen's back since it's kind of a day-to-day thing. Wouldn't be surprised if they start somebody different, a Kogi, K-Bates Diop, but I think we got to expect Gordon to start. His minutes have been pretty strong. They like to close with him, even over like Nurk, even if Nurk's not in foul trouble or hurt. So I think it's fair to expect Gordon to start if Grayson Allen can't go. Again, pretty legit ankle sprain, so I think there's a chance he misses. You obviously got the Kevin Durant Brooklyn narrative going on. Devin Booker against Mikal Bridges. A lot of stuff going on in this game. ESPN. It's a pretty fun one, despite how the Nets haven't been too interesting overall, but kind of excited for this game.
And then on the Brooklyn side of things, Ben Simmons listed questionable. They're without Dorian Finney-Smith and Day'Ron Sharpe. We saw Ben Simmons playing basically as a backup 5 last game and in kind of spread lineups, really active, both on the boards and kind of ball handling, kind of honestly, one of the roles that I think a lot of people who've been fans of Ben Simmons have been wanting to see Ben Simmons kind of play for years, is that 5 with like 4 spread around him and see how it goes. And it certainly can work really well against second units. The Jazz have been struggling defensively, so that's part of it as well. But he immediately shows up on the injury report with a left knee contusion. So we're right back at it. What are your notes here on the Nets?
Yeah, hurt himself on the last defensive play of the game. Got a probable tag. And like I said, he was my game show that I'm going to start if I ever get sick of writing matchups will be who's the late scratch today. And Ben Simmons would have been, minus 400 for the favorite today for being a late scratch. But yeah, I don't know. Again, it's contusion. He only fell. I think he's got a chance, but those mid-day downgrades are never good. 2 players who would benefit most to me would be Nick Claxton and Spencer Dinwiddie. We saw their minutes come down. We saw Nick Claxton's minutes get really cut, and we saw Claxton hit like upper 30s. And now that he has a capable backup in Ben, they just don't need to plan that much. Like there was a lot of commentary from Jacques Vaughn saying they like worked him up to get to where he is conditioning wise, and they're like it's kind of like uncomfortable and not like in his DNA really to play this many minutes. So those guys would benefit a little bit. Certainly would get a little bit more Royce O'Neal. Lonnie Walker, should mention, came off his minutes limit and got a bunch of burn, like almost doubled his minutes limit. Again, game flow was a pretty big part of that, but he would benefit. The GSJ would benefit a little bit for defense. And then I think Cam Thomas and Mikal Bridges are pretty much neutral in the situation. Cam Johnson to a lesser degree. I like this matchup for Cam Johnson, also in a revenge game. But yeah, definitely think that there's a good chance that Ben Simmons misses this game. At least it's not a back injury. It's just like fell down, hurt his knee. So should be day-to-day, but famous last words on Ben, calling Ben day-to-day.
Last game to touch on is Damian Lillard's return to Portland. On the Milwaukee injury report, there's really nothing on there. So I guess, the big question is, do you believe in any of the narratives? Does Giannis defer more to Dame in the return to Portland? What are you thinking about the Bucks tonight?
Yeah, it should be good. I expect them to go out there and try to get this game. Matchup wise, it's like a screaming Giannis spot. I think third worst rim defense. They've got iffy transition defense at times. They're a good 3-point defense. The Blazers are. So it's like purely Giannis spot. Minutes were really strong in Doc's debut. He's been taking away a lot of ball handling from Damian Lillard. Should note that Doc Rivers said that a goal of his is try to get the ball more in Damian Lillard's hands. Expect Dame to play a pretty good bit here with the homecoming game. Brook Lopez is actually a little bit more involved with screening with Damian Lillard in the last game. So that was something that was noteworthy to see if that kind of develops. I don't think it's going to stick too much. And then, as we mentioned on the pod, if you guys didn't check it out yet, Bobby Portis is kind of benefiting because he doesn't want to play anyone else. I think Doc just doesn't trust these Marjon Beauchamps, AJ Greens, and Andre Jacksons of the world. So it could be pretty condensed rotation. Blazers playing pretty well. Their offense has been a major issue. They had the worst offense in the NBA in 2024, and their defense isn't much better. I think it's 27. So, and the Bucks were terrible on defense. So, pretty good place to attack. I don't know if it's on the slate or not. It's probably not for the late game. Anyways, I don't know if you know that, but pretty good game environment.
On the Portland side of things, the injury report is actually straightforward. They've had a bunch of Q tags of late. None of those are here today. They're still without Shaedon Sharpe and Moses Brown and Robert Williams. What are your notes on the Blazers?
Yeah, nothing really to note. Just Malcolm Brogdon played a ton. Anthony Simons played a bunch. DeAndre Ayton's playing really well. Jeremy Grant's playing great ball right now. So I don't have really too much to add. I will add though that I wanted to cover boy Giannis to be like anti, Dame. Everyone wants to play Dame and just play Giannis because the matchup's so much better. But I went a different route. I planted Anthony Simons. I just love guards against the Bucks. I think he's going to cook Malik Beasley. He's pretty healthy here. So, it's kind of narrative. Like, oh, look, Damian, though, out with the old, in with the new. I think Anthony Simons could have a pretty big game tonight.
Yeah, you've got the Sheep Boys befuddled because your flag planting player's not on the main slate now. So they don't know what to do with you. I like
I'll get one.
Keep them off guard. All right. That'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you want to support the content that we're putting out, the best way to do so is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can hit the bell and get notifications whenever we post new content. We have a goal to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. I believe we are approaching 4,600, so we are closing in inch by inch. I appreciate you telling your friends and letting them know about this channel as well. As always, if you want to join us behind the paywall, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA. For more details on our premium products, including our NBA player props package. We encourage you to read the FAQ if you're interested in joining that, or the NBA DFS package, where you can get Mike Gallagher's matchups, live shows 5 days a week, all the detail on the projections, so on and so forth. Today is Wednesday, so behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern will be myself and Gary Hartman breaking down this DFS slate, the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian plays, the leverage pivots, and of course, the flag plants. As always, another way to support this content and keep it free is to feed that algorithm and pay your fees in smashing that like button. You smash the like button, it feeds the algorithm, which helps feed our families and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information and analysis you need each and every day to set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm, nom, 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 nom. I'll be back on Friday. Mike Gallagher and Mark Dankenbring will be here tomorrow to escort you through the Thursday slate. Until then, see you next time.